Hello and welcome back to Postie Adventures. Today I am going to be fixing up this gear lever. As you can tell, she's not in the best of shape. She swings all the way one way to go up gears and all the way back the other way to go down. And as you can tell, it's definitely not rideable at the moment. I've replaced the gear lever before and it's just gone back bad. So I am going to replace the whole Gearshift spindle and see how that goes. Should fix the problem. Okay, so what you're going to need for this project is I find my Gymi maintenance book pretty darn important. It's really handy for just figuring out what to do, especially if your bike's a little bit different than mine. This will probably have the answers as it's got all the different types of Hondas between 1965 and 1999 for the CTs. I'm going to be using this rubber wrench. Yeah, I think it's called a strap wrench, just to hold the clutch in place while we try and take it off. Got some verniers here, just to check my friction disc sizes if they're right. Circlip pliers, you're going to need two different types. The ones that squeeze out and ones that squeeze in as well. So I've got a little kit here with all the different ends and can be interchangeable, which is handy for me. Bit of a gasket kit, it's always a bit handy. Always good to change your gaskets when you take your engine apart. I definitely need all my assorted sockets. There's a lot of different ones. I'll be naming the different ones you need throughout here. This is a metric and imperial set, but for a postie you just need your metric. Gloves do not go astray. A couple of rags definitely don't go astray either. And if you're going to rebuild your clutch while it's off, clutch plates and your friction discs as well. First things first, take out your dipstick. You don't have to fully take it out, just undo it so you can just get some airflow going through there. Then get a 17mm socket and take off your sump plug. Let the oil drain out. Always good to just give your socket a bit of a clean right now. Okay, so now do not forget to chuck your bike on the working stand. And while the oil's draining, take off your foot pegs. You have to do this because it's covering up some bolts behind here to get the engine cover off. It's also good if you have a container too to chuck all your bolts, but I'm definitely not smart enough to be doing that. Slide this out around the brake, the back brake. Just have to push that down a little bit, get it around and out. Always good to give that a clean as well. Okay, get a 10mm socket and take off the Kickstarter lever while the oil is still draining. little wiggle and she should come out as you just seen. Also take off the gear shift lever. It's normally 10mm, but for some reason this aftermarket one is 11, which has stuffed me up on a road trip. Give it a bit of a wiggle, she comes out. As you can see, that there is pretty much stretched, and it's half the problem. And that there is the other half. It's not looking too pretty, so I'm just going to replace the whole spindle. So after that, grab a 8mm socket with an extension, and we'll take off these 9 bolts here which hold on the housing. I'm not going to worry about the clutch adjustment screw here. I'm just going to leave that on and sort that out later. It will just stay attached here. To me, it's not too much of a problem. You can take it off if you want. All you got to do is unbolt it, loosen the screw, just take the little covers off. Try and give her a jiggle off. If you do have trouble, there is 2 little plying spots. You try and ply off the engine cover. One there and one there. Just if it is really stuck on. I don't know why it might be difficult today. I think our problem could be just as simple as being this little cover bolts here. It's meant to just secure this plastic down that I haven't been using. So just a 17 to remove that. Take this off. There we go. As simple as that. Just a little bolt. Now be careful because you will have clutch mechanisms inside that will fall down and aren't secured properly. Ooh. As you can see, this is little clutch mechanism pieces in here, like clutch spring and whatnot. Don't lose those. They're all just free fall. So, including here, let's grab, I'm just going to grab these out right now so I don't lose them. They slide off. Boom. Boom. Clutch lever, clutch bearing. There you go. Now we have exposed the clutch. We have to remove the clutch to get to the gear shifter spindle. Okay, to remove the clutch, first take off this clutch cover. Now, on a clutch that has not been serviced for a long time, this clutch cover can be extremely hard to get off. I've had problems with it in the past. Whoop. And to do this, I have made a video on how to use an easy out to get those screws out, because they're not coming out by normal methods. You have to use an easy out. Now, I have pulled this clutch apart before, which makes it a little bit easier for me because everything's just a little bit loosened up. Okay, now once you take off the clutch cover, inspect the gasket around it, and possibly even just change it with one out of your gasket kit that you've got. Now inside here you do get a bit of gunk build up. You definitely need to try and clean that if you could. It's always a good self-practice thing. Now, I don't know if you can see it properly, but this is the locking washer, which is right there. It's a little thing that's folded up. There's a couple of edges around the side, but that's the only one holding it in place. As you can see, it's a bit wonky because I've taken it out a couple of times and it can be a bitch to get out. And this is the lock nut for the clutch. Now that's also hard to get out. So first things first, we need to get this off, and then there is a special tool or special socket that Honda sell, or you can get an aftermarket one to use. This is where the fun begins. This is the special tool Honda sell for this lock nut they have on the clutch. There's two different types. I've just got the basic one that I just got from my local motorbike store, which is MCA. And I know you can get ones that are double-ended and have both sizes on them, so that's probably handy, and you can just get them off eBay or even Lambert motorcycles as well. Just whatever floats your boat. If we just go in here, get your socket, twist it, but while you're holding that, I'm gonna use this strap wrench to try and hold it. But I'm also going to slot a coin inside the gears there just to try and hold it. It's recommended to use like a little copper piece, but I don't have much copper laying around. So what I'm going to do is just shove a 20-cent piece in between the two gears, just like that. That'll jam up and stop the clutch from moving, but that is definitely not enough. Okay, so I've used a strap wrench to try and hold this. I've often had to use two people or even a ratchet strap and rubber to try and fix it. I'll show you a picture. And so let's try this out right now. Piece of piss. Probably because I've taken this off before. So it makes it a bit easier. Go. Now that that is out, this here should slide off. Oop. That's probably something important. Wait, nah, it's just the 20 cents. Oh, it's just 20 cents that fell down and I left in there. Don't forget about that. But this is the clutch assembly. So we'll just put that aside for now. Okay, so now we need to get the primary drive gear off. It's the spinning, that's in neutral. It's also a good sign, handy for us. To do this, I need circular pliers. So I've got it so it's going out with two prongs. Chuck her in the two holes there. Spreader, and she should come off pretty easy. If you don't have circular pliers, you can just use probably 2 flathead screwdrivers, pushing them out, or even if you get a friend to hand it, help you out, or even just try and get one side plied out, just out here and go around the circle. Also can do it. Once you take that off, it slides straight off. Not a problem. You don't have to really worry about the orientation of this. It only goes back on one way. Okay, so this here is the Gearshift spindle. Well, this is what we're going to be replacing because the other side is absolutely crap. So basically to do this, we just follow it up. This is the Gearshift arm, which goes onto the shift drum selector. And this is also connected to just a holder, which is on a spring. So literally that's just a high tension spring, which holds the gears in place, while this here shifts the gears back and forth from our feet, which is on the Gearshift lever on the other side. So yep, I'm going to start taking these off. So what I'm using here is the 10mm. I'll loosen up this spring here, and then I'm just going to loosen up, just completely take off the drum and gear. So always don't loose the bolts. I'm telling you now, I'm going to. There you go. So you don't have to take this all the way off. Just have to get this out. Okay, so now that's all free, we can just take and push down the gear selector arm, try and slide it out that little gap there while pulling the spindle out. And now it's free. You can slide it completely out while pushing the brake down just to give it enough room. And there we have it. A nearly pretty smooth gear selector spindle. Also, if you're going to have a look, you can just check it to see if it's bent. It's also a good maintenance procedure, but nah, this is all good. So I'm just going to swap this out with a second-hand one. I'm putting this back in, make sure the gear selector arm goes back under and into the gear selector. Look. There we go. Make sure this is in there nice and good. Now check that the grommet on the other side has not fallen off. Now put the shift drum stopper plate back on. You notice it will line up with the holes here, so you cannot stuff it up. Now tighten that up. So to put the stopper arm back into place, I find the easiest way is if I slide the stopper arm back up, because we loosened it before, flick the spring back under the stopper arm, and then you just push the stopper arm down and put it back into place while you're tightening up the bolt. And so there's no messy business while trying to deal with the spring. And now that is back in place and you can tell it's in the neutral position, I'm going to chuck on the primary gear drive. Just line it up with the gears as so. And with your circlip pliers, apply the circlip back on. Make sure she's in place properly. Just spread her out so you can slide her on. If she's not sitting there properly, you can always just push her in till she clicks in. Go. So now it's time to chuck the clutch on. What you're going to do, slide her up here and line her up with the gears. There we go. Get your locking washer, which is a bit of a prick, and I prefer to keep it off, but I'm sure it serves a purpose. I'll chuck this in here. There is grooves in there which it will slide into, as you can see. Boom. Now grab your lock nut. Now there is an orientation. I can only just tell from the marks on one side that it needs to go this way. At the end of the day, I'm not even really sure. I don't think there is an orientation. So just chuck this in. Now again, get your lock nut tool out. Chuck her on your extension. Okay, get your special lock nut tool. Again, that's what it looks like. Nothing too fancy, but definitely something I'd struggle to make myself if I had to make it. So this is going to be the tricky part because it is definitely going to spin. Okay, get your strap wrench again. Chuck her on. Don't know if I'm holding this the right way, but we are going to find out. Nah. Don't know if I've got that. You can't also put the coin in as well, which is a bit tricky, considering that's as tight as I can get it by myself, and I'm just going to leave it like that. Hopefully it should be right. Now I'm going to have to push in one of the legs of the bloody locking washer. Next, get your clutch cover plate. Just chuck her on. Boom. Your 2 Phillips head screws. And that's exactly what I did not want to do. Drop her in the oil. Okay, this time I'm going to chuck on into the screw first before hovering over the drip pan, which is full of dirty oil. And now I have to go searching. I got it. A bit extra oil won't hurt, will it? Give her a bit of a nip up, but not too tight. You probably will experience when you take yours off, they can be a bitch to get off these screws. Absolute bitch, which is why I've got an episode out how to get them out with an easy out. I've stuffed them up a couple of times. Okay, next, before I put the cover on, I am going to give that oil filter a bit of a clean. It's just like a little pad. I've never replaced one, I've just cleaned them out. Get a set of nil nose pliers, put them in there. It's not bad, really. Let's give it a wipe down. Yeah, good. Now put it in the same way that you got it out. Give it a push in, boom. Now, before you put your engine cover on, make sure you haven't got like little bits and pieces inside, okay, like fluff, whatnot. Check like gaskets, so we've got a bit of gasket up here stuck. Remove that. More gasket there. Yeah, just want to make sure you've got a nice smooth surface, nice clean surface to put your gasket on. Once you have cleaned off any gasket, extra bits or any bits that are sticking out, just give her a quick wipe over, especially the bottom bits. The bottom bits have got all the bits and oil and whatnot have been dripping down. Now with the outer casing, take the old gasket off. Depends, it's up to you if you want to reuse it. I've got bits here that are ripped off and I've got a gasket kit there. So I might as well use it, reuse it, replace it. And of course this is going to be a bitch. Now I regret doing it. So you need to clean as much as you can off the outer casing of the gasket. Just try and make it nice and smooth as you can. I've been using a screwdriver to get it off, but try real hard not to scrape it because it doesn't help. But now I'm gonna chuck a gasket on the outside. So after you've cleaned up around the outside, especially if you've had a little bits and pieces of gasket, you need to give the inside a bit of a wipe down. Try and get all your little bits and pieces of gasket out. As you can see, just found some. It's actually a leaf because I'm outside at the moment, but point proven. Keep everything wiped down. You could even give it a flush if you really wanted to. I don't want to, but you could. Before you put your gasket on, get your little oily rag, dunk in a little bit of oil again. Give it a quick wipe over. Get a good seal. So you don't really have like a completely dry gasket when you put her on. Not much, just enough. Okay, and now sit her on the engine. Just gotta do, line her up. Sit her there, try not to get it dirty. Get your bits and pieces from the clutch mechanism. That was, you probably had setting in there. Yeah. So now, get all the other pieces from the clutch, e.g. like the bearing, first off. And sit up in here. Get in there nice and smooth. Yeah, give it a clean before you put it on. Then grab the clutch lifter plate. This sits here, goes in the bearing, sits like that. And once, just keep that in place, grab your clutch release lever. Whoop. Yep. Sit that, line it up. It's nice and center, and then you slide it in. Yep. So that goes on the gear selector spindle. Look. Now, it's going to be a bit flimsy, not going to lie. Everything here until you actually get the outer casing on. So have patience and try and get everything on, even if it's all going to be pretty fiddly. Chuck on your big spring, then your little spring and your oil guide in the little hole in the center. Try and get it to sit there the best as possible. Then the final piece of the puzzle is the ball retainer in colour. Try and clean everything as well before you put it on. So this is going to sit like that. This is going to be the real tricky part. Best way for me to do this is I'm going to sit this inside the outer casing. It's loose. Sit it straight in. Try and hold it there while sliding this on. And while you put this on, the outer casing, keep in mind where the gasket is as well. It's also a good idea. Let's grab some bolts for the outer casing and chuck them in very, very loosely, so there's a bit of a guide. Just to try and help everything line up with the gasket. And if it doesn't go on first time, don't worry, because sometimes it can take a couple of tries. There we go. Bit of a tap and she's in. Chuck all your bolts back in. Just finger tight at first. As you might have been able to tell, I had to put a bit of a halt to the rebuilding process yesterday as it did get a bit dark. I'm sure you started to tell. So now I'm back. I'm just going to take off and double check that everything is nice and tight in a star formation. These can get loose overnight, which aren't too much of a biggie deal. So once this is on, still find it, you only want it a little bit tight, you don't want to go overboard, you really do not want to strip the bolts at all. Okay, now we're going to put the clutch adjuster nut back on. I don't have the little plastic cover that you can get to go over this here, but I'm not too worried. I will probably have to readjust this later on, so I might do that in another episode. I'm just doing that finger tight for the moment. And might as well put back on the little thing that stuffed us up before. This bad boy. Might get a better look. This little bad boy. While we are here, we might as well put on our Kickstarter. Sometimes she does need a bit of a tap. Might even help if I take the bolt out. I put it in there so I didn't lose it, but there we go. This is 10mm. I did this one up pretty tight without snapping the bolt. Yeah, you really want to make sure you get a good good, nice, tight connection on that. You do not want to be stripping it. Okay, now let's also tighten up the sump plug. Sump plug is 17. Again, tight but not too tight. So now I've put the sump plug on, I'm going to fill her up with engine oil while I'm here, and I'm going to be using 10W40 motorcycle oil. Now I'm using this oil because it has on the back, it says here, wet, using transmissions with a wet clutch system. That suits us perfectly, but try and make sure you get an oil that says that to really help our centrifugal clutch. Okay, to do this, just take out your dipstick, sit her aside, put a funnel in, preferably a thin one. This one doesn't fit perfectly, but it fits enough for me to be able to get it in, at least sit it there. It's not a perfect fit, but it gets the job done. Now, a CT110 engine should easily take a litre, but I have used a bit already on the clutch, just wetting it, so I'm not too worried about just tipping this all in. It's also good to use this bottle to fill up the old oil with, so you can store it away and transport it easily. So that's sitting there for a little bit. Okay, here it is on the other end with a new Gearshift spindle. It looks a lot better than the old one. And I've got another Gearshift lever, which we are going to put on now. What it is a 10mm socket for this again. Now just line it up, give it a bit of a wiggle. A nice tight fitting is a good fitting. Actually give her a bit of a tap with the back of the handle. There we go. Perfect. Now let's try and get this through. Here's a groove for the bolt to slide through. As you can tell, as I put the bolt through, it's pushed out a bit. It's probably better to keep it away from the outside of the engine, stop it from scraping. Now I definitely do not want this loose, and just having this loose can recreate the problem I had before with it slipping and shearing the gears off. Okay, it's always good to give the parts from your undercarriage a good clean. You always get dust, dirt, mostly dirt, build up. So now, like before, get your foot pegs, or one side of your foot pegs, in and around your brake lever. Got it in here. Then put them in finger tight. Sometimes it is a lot easier if you got someone else here to help you, but I currently don't. grab your dipstick, give it a clean. Chuck her in. Screw her in. Take it back out. Have a look. Okay, well, she is definitely full. Just what we want. It will probably settle after you get it running. And she splats oil around everywhere, the clutch fills up with oil and all that jazz, and that's what you want. So you just need to check it after you give it a run or two and give her a top up if needed. Okay. So let's try and give her a bit of a kick over and see if she'll run. Hey, she sounded like she's running okay-ish. I'm gonna give her a bit of a ride just to test her out, make sure she's going all good. I just took the Postie out for a ride. She was not running the best, but I think I just need to adjust the clutch, which I'll do in another episode. This is show you guys how to do that. And I heard a bit of a rattle. And at this stage, I'm pretty sure that is my cam chain that's been a bit loose. So I will fix it up in another episode as well. And until then, I will see you next time on Postie Adventures.